It may look a tranquil scene, but this retirement village in Sussex holds a dark secret.
Lots of the stuff in the book is actually in the geography of this place. In the first book, someone is murdered in this car park right here. And plenty more murders this way. Murders up here.
Yeah.
Murders up here.
There's some very interesting people here.
And we've had a couple in the Secret Service, haven't we?
We have.
Real spies.
Real spies. Real spies.
MI5 and
Yes, and it was fascinating having coffee with them.
Hello, and welcome to the Senior Detectives Podcast, a cozy corner to talk about mysteries of all kinds. I'm Hannah.
And I'm Lauren. Today we will be discussing book number 3 in Richard Osman's Today we'll be discussing book number 3 in Richard Osman's Thursday Murder Club series. Say that 3 times fast. The Bullet That Missed. A decade-old cold case, their favorite kind, leads them to a local news legend and a murder with no body and no answers. Then a new foe pays Elizabeth a visit. Her mission? Kill or be killed. Suddenly the cold case has become red hot. While Elizabeth wrestles with her conscience and a gun, Joyce, Ron, and Ibrahim chase down the clues with help from old friends and new. But can the gang solve the mystery and save Elizabeth before the murderer strikes again?
Maybe.
Maybe. I mean, it's not really the kind of book where they don't.
Right. Before we jump into things, we just wanted to mention that if you are listening to this audio only method, that we are doing like full video versions on YouTube now at Senior Detectives on YouTube. So
yeah,
if you want to see our faces.
Yeah, and it is pretty cool. My wonderful brother, Hannah's husband, Kendall, puts in like scenes and images that kind of help, get the visual of what we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
If you've never consumed whatever we're talking about before, that's a good way to see with your own 2 eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Or, yeah, just to see us because we so pretty.
So check it out. Once again, it's at Senior Detectives on YouTube.
Yeah.
And we also have all of our like video game playthroughs on there as well, if that interests you.
Yes.
So, alrighty. I'm so happy to be back with the
that we're
Murder
doing
Club.
this. Yes, I know. It was an absolute delight to read.
These books are just, I feel like they are just like the epitome for me of the cozy mystery genre.
Mm-hmm.
They just really do it for me.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't want to say it's low stakes because shit happens.
Right.
And I mean, the whole premise is that they're older people.
Right. They all feel so delicate just because they're older. And I'm just like, please be careful.
Yeah. Please let's not this be the book that we lose one of our gang, you know?
Oh man. I'm so not. I feel like it's going to happen in one of them, and I'm just not ready for it. I'm really not.
I also think it's going to happen. And it makes me very nervous, but not like because it's so tense and I'm like, oh my God, during this crazy battle, one of them's going to get shot. It's just like, I know one of them is going to succumb somehow,
some way. Yeah. You spend more time not worried about them for plot reasons.
Right.
But just that they're older and that like all of a sudden something's going to happen. It makes me very nervous, but we all make it through this one.
Yes.
It's okay.
It's okay. Deep breaths. Let it out.
Kind of like the other two, this one opens with kind of a cold open kind of a thing that's related to the story in some way.
It's very hooky. It does a great job.
It is. This one really, I think, got me the most out of the 3, honestly. But it's a woman named Bethany Waits, and she's considering something, weighing a decision with a bullet in her hand. And she ultimately decides that she needs to just go for it, the risk be damned. And she writes her coworker, Mike, an email, knowing it might be her last and that he's not going to see it until the morning. So like, he's not going to be able to stop her in any way. It ends with her thing like, will she live or will she die? And she just goes, to opportunities. And
Yeah.
what does that mean?
What does that mean? And that's the last you get of that for quite a while. Because from there, we jump into our mystery gang that we love so much.
We do love. Yes.
This all to say, if you haven't listened to, because we covered the first 2 books, if you haven't listened to those, go listen to them because you're not going to know. We're just going to start talking about them like we are already familiar with them.
We're already familiar. Yeah.
Yeah.
I had somebody ask me if you could read these in any order, and I said, absolutely not.
No.
Nope. Don't do it.
You really can't. No, because their relationships build over time and evolve, and characters will pop up that will have been in the first book, and they're only in it for like a scene or 2, but like you won't know who they are unless you've read the other ones. Or
Right.
Yeah.
It all builds, and the character development and their relationships to each other all grows and changes. And I do like that despite since they're older people, they are still growing and changing as characters.
Totally.
I enjoy that a lot.
So we start out with Ron. He is at a news studio preparing to be interviewed by local news superstar Mike Waghorn. And Joyce is absolutely overjoyed.
She is like infatuated with this man.
Yes. He definitely gives local celebrity people in that area are digging it, you know. And in the little blurb at the back of the book, Richard Osman is talking about this character, and basically he was talking about how he wanted to take his experience from the TV world and put it into his author world. And I thought that was cool, and that he did a really good job melding the two.
Yeah, he brings that kind of those elements into this story really well. I feel like this one was a return to form, as it was more of a mystery. I feel like the second book had like a spy thriller, had something going on, and there was a mystery in that one, but not this one is like a true mystery.
Yeah.
Missing body, you know. I just feel like this book came back around in a way that I really enjoyed.
Yeah, but kept the characters that you meet and love in the second one. I agree. The second one definitely feels very different, but I'm glad that while he came back, he didn't like lose everything from the second one, you know?
It definitely builds off the second one really well, I think.
Yeah.
And so we open with Ron, and he is getting his makeup done, which he's grumbling about.
Yeah.
Because he's going to be appearing on the local news.
He reminds me so much of Roy Kent.
He does. It's like if Roy Kent was in his 60s or 70s.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes, there's literally that scene in Ted Lasso where he's getting his makeup done. And the woman's like, what do you usually do with your nose? And he's like, what? Nothing.
Like,
I leave
there.
it the fuck alone. Yeah.
Oh, man.
But they are hitting it off, him and the makeup artist.
Yeah, she's like his age or close enough. And yeah, so they're kind of bantering, and then Joyce arrives, followed by Ibrahim and Elizabeth. So they're all there to see Ron get his little TV spot. And they have created this whole interview. They have set it all up.
As they do.
It's all a scam by the Murder Club to get Mike Waghorn and the TV crew, like to get them involved in this cold case that they are working on about Bethany Waits.
They straight up manipulate them into coming to dinner and getting drunk with them.
They essentially bribe them. Yeah. And this is all because Mike is the coworker that Bethany mentioned in the opening chapter. And it turns out that opening chapter took place 10 years ago. Yeah. And Bethany has been missing ever since then. Her body was never found, just bloody clothes.
Right. The official report is that she is dead. And I think that's kind of crazy.
Yeah, it feels wrong. Even from a meta, no body no death kind of.
There's no
like,
body. They're
we didn't see
missing
them die,
until you find
they're
their
not
body.
dead.
Or
Yeah.
someone confesses to their murder or something.
Right. But like in a real world sense, it's strange that she's considered dead because it was a car accident. She supposedly,
Off a
her
cliff.
car ran off a cliff and the car was recovered, but just her body was gone, but her clothes were there and bloody. It makes no sense.
Yeah.
And I believe it crashed off a cliff and it was like onto a like water, like it was like a beach.
Right. And they had to pull the car out of, yeah.
Right. And there was no body washed up. So like what? That's not how that works.
Yeah.
They don't just disappear.
Yeah. Although they go on the whole murder thing for so long that I was just like, she must have been. If they're so convinced.
They are very convinced. Yeah, to me, it doesn't read like an accident at all. Like it's clearly something fishy if her body is gone.
And especially because of the prologue chapter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And all they really get from Mike and Pauline is that before Bethany disappeared, she was working on a VAT, value added tax fraud story. And she had this big new lead that she had mentioned to him, but she didn't really tell him exactly what was going on. That's basically it, is that she did this thing and then disappeared.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously they are correlated, but Mike doesn't know how, even though he's kind of been obsessing about it for the last 10 years.
She was like his co-star for their like morning news show. And he's had kind of a rotation of co-stars since then. And it's the dynamic of like older guy, young, hot woman news journalist. And he's had this rotation and like none of them have lived up to her.
And they were friends.
Yeah. He actually like really enjoyed her company and was sad to see her just disappear. But yeah, so the big thing is that she was working on this tax fraud ring that she had found.
Yeah.
She uncovered enough, I guess.
Someone went to jail.
Were aware of it enough. Yeah, where actually somebody did go to jail. There was a whole trial. But they're pretty convinced that the right people are not in jail. Basically, it was all pinned on this one woman
lady
who ended up in jail. So it's still fishy and probably still not, justice has not been served.
She could have been involved, but it's definitely, she was the fall guy.
Absolutely a scapegoat. Yeah.
Yeah. And if you recall from our first 2 episodes, the first 2 books, those chapters are extremely short and it will flip flop whose perspective it is being told from. So you can have a chapter from Donna's perspective. It will be 2 pages long, and then it will switch to Ibrahim's perspective, and they're all doing something different. So we're going to try our best to kind of keep this like
linear.
Yeah, like it makes sense, and not jump around quite as much as the book does.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say it keeps the book very interesting and keeps you hooked.
It does. The chapters pretty much all end on some sort of, I guess they're cliffhangers, but it's not always a really dramatic one, but they leave you on enough of a hook where you want to come back and you know the next chapter is not going to be from that character's perspective. So it's like, okay, well,
so
there's going to be like 1 or 2 short chapters before I get back to this person. And then that's how you read this book in like a day.
Right, exactly.
One that just rolls over to the next chapter every time and then you're done.
Yeah.
So the Murder Club has dinner with Mike and Pauline, and they find out that he doesn't really know too much. And Pauline, the makeup artist, is really into Ron, is what we're leaving off with this.
Yep.
Meanwhile.
Yes. Meanwhile,
in prison, Connie Johnson, who is the criminal mastermind that they pinned a lot of stuff on at the end of
who I actually adore.
She's
I love
great.
Connie.
She's a great character because she is 100% a criminal and you are 100% rooting for her. I'm on Team Connie.
I know. It's weird, honestly. But she's just so likable, and I think that's how she has been so successful being a criminal mastermind, but I definitely feed right into it.
Yeah. She was a really charismatic person.
Yeah.
And she's just a boss about it. Like her prison cell is like decked out. It's like Al Capone's
Yeah.
fucking prison cell. She's got an espresso machine in there. She's got TVs. She's got couches. Like she's all decked up in there. She's doing fine, but she wants revenge because they stole a lot of money from her and pinned a lot of crimes on her, most of which she actually did.
Yeah.
So
She's in jail now.
after Bogdan and Ron for getting her busted at the end of the last book.
Yeah. Especially Bogdan because he rejected her.
Yes, exactly. So speaking of,
Yeah.
we switch over. Meanwhile, Donna and Bogdan are hooking up.
Yay!
And we love it.
we love
them.
it for them.
I really
it's so cute because
They
they're
really-
both like these hardened, badass people that they get all like mushy together, and it's great.
They're soft and mushy when they're together. And it really is lovely to see both of these characters soften up a little bit. And they just had their first date and it's just going super well and they're very cute together.
Yep.
But they are talking about this cold case that the Thursday Murder Club is working on, Bethany's case.
Yeah, Bogdan and Chris definitely are a part of this book. I would say not quite as much,
Mm-mm.
at least in the actual mystery. But they do come back and they're helpful in different ways. And it's interesting because Donna and Bogdan have to toe this line because Donna's a cop and Bogdan is like the henchman of the murder club.
He's, very much a criminal. Like,
Yeah.
full on murderer. Like,
But we love
he's-
him too. I think he's
Right,
my
like-
favorite character.
kind of a Dexter style. Like, he kills shitty people, kind of a murderer
Yeah.
when he has to, to protect the people he loves, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But it's funny to watch them kind of talk around the issue. So it turns out we get a little diary chapter from Joyce here, and she's the one who chose the Bethany case
Because of Mike.
because she wanted to
Because
meet Mike
she's
Waghorn.
Infatuated
Love
with Mike. It's so funny. It's such a good, you know how like in Nancy Drew, when she's like, oh, I'm on vacation and I just stumbled across a mystery. It gives
Oopsie.
that energy where it's like, okay, how can they get involved in their next mystery? Let's just make Joyce be in love with someone.
Truly. Yes. Yeah. So she gives us a little more information on the case here. The woman's name that went to jail was named Heather Garbett, and she was working with a man named Jack Mason, who they think was more of the mastermind kind of role. But Heather is the one who went to jail. Jack did not. And Mike thinks that Bethany found something that specifically linked Jack to the crime and that she was done away with because of that specifically. And they
Right.
never did find anything to link him together to the fraud in the whole time that the case was in trial and everything. So
Yeah.
he supposedly has gotten away with it.
Rich people, you know.
That's just the way.
Meanwhile, Elizabeth, this is I love this plotline. It has nothing to do with the case that they've decided to start working on, but Elizabeth has quite a past,
Mhm.
like MI6 secret agent spy past.
Yeah.
And she starts receiving threatening messages on her phone, like, I know what you've done. We have a lot to speak about. I have a job for you. Like, somebody is trying to get to her.
Mm-hmm.
And
hasn't
she has
replied
no
yet.
idea what's happening.
Yeah, she does not know who this is or what this could be about. She is clueless.
Yeah.
And she's reviewing some financial docs for the cold case. And she wants Joyce's daughter, who's like in finance, to look over them and kind of pick through all the financial shit to try and find some little piece of evidence that maybe could link Jack to the crime.
I absolutely love that all of these teeny little characters, they come back in the story and they are so on board. They all want to be involved and help.
It's great. Everybody, everybody's just on board for the fun,
Yeah.
which I would be if
Yeah.
if someone called me in a very casual capacity and wanted to just kind of include me in a murder investigation. Yes. Okay. Like
From
low
10 years
risk to
ago?
me. I'm just a consultant. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's do it. So Elizabeth is there. She's reviewing documents. Stephen and Bogdan are playing chess as they do.
My heart.
That's when Stephen's memory is like top of his game when he's playing chess. So it's like, it's good to see him in that way.
The Bogdan-Stephen relationship is so pure.
It is. This is why we love Bogdan. Yes, he's a murderer, but he plays chess with Stephen.
Yeah.
You want me to hate this man? No.
I don't think Richard Osman wants us to hate him.
No, we're not supposed to. We're not, absolutely not supposed to.
No.
So Chris and Donna go to check out a crime scene. I think it's completely unrelated to the story.
Totally unrelated. They're just coppers.
They're just on the job, you know. They're both like on cloud 9 right now because they're in like happy new relationships. Chris is with dating Donna's mother, which that's a plotline from the last book, and they're doing great. And then Bogdan and Donna are together now, and he can totally tell that like you're not usually this bubbly. What's going on with you? He's totally on her about it, but he doesn't push.
Yeah,
it's cute. It's a very like father-daughter relationship with them.
They keep it a secret for so long, which I'm like, you guys, why even bother?
Yeah,
I guess I get it.
Ibrahim asks Chris to help out with their cold case, and like Bogdan is like sort of in on what's going on with the cold case. So like Donna's sort of working on the cold case on the lowdown, and now Chris is being asked to help as well. They're
slowly involving everybody, but they only involve them in the exact way that they want them to be involved.
Exactly.
Because they're like little puppet masters.
Right. So Ibrahim basically, he wants Chris's help because Connie Johnson is in the same prison as Heather Garbett, which is the woman who went down for the whole tax fraud thing. So he wants an in to talk to Connie Johnson and get Connie to see what she can find out about and see if she can talk to Heather and find anything out about that.
I think this is amazing because he goes to meet her, and I love both of their characters so much, and they're so different that seeing them interact, it's like when you're watching like your favorite TV show and two characters that never have scenes together ever finally have a scene together, and you're like, this is amazing.
It's like when Paris Geller and Emily Gilmore get together in episodes, and you're just like, I need this. I need more of it.
Yes. And I would say the one thing about this is that we did not get enough of it.
Yeah. I'm hoping that this relationship between these two is something that we see more of in the next book.
Yeah.
It's like she knows he's friends with Ron and Bogdan.
Right.
But Ibrahim wasn't as involved in like pinning everything on Connie. So she doesn't have specific beef with him.
Yeah.
She knows he's friends with them. So she's like, I hate your friends, but also like, what else do I have to do? Sure, I'll help you.
I'll help you. And also, do you want to be my psychiatrist?
I think they're both kind of playing each other in this scene, right?
Yeah.
Because he totally agrees to be her therapist because he thinks, Ibrahim is a pure soul and just wants to be helpful and actually wants to help her. But also he knows that will provide more information in the long run because she's going to be opening up to him.
Yeah.
And then she's 100% trying to learn more about Ron and Bogdan and like get more information for her own reasons. But they genuinely want to help each other in a way. It's funny. It's fun.
Yep. I love it.
That evening, we have a scene where Elizabeth and Stephen are out on like an evening walk and they get abducted.
They do. Yes. And this is when Elizabeth starts sprinkling in the knowledge to the reader that Stephen's really not doing that well mentally.
Mm-hmm.
And she's basically started hiding that fact from everyone she knows and loves. So when they go on their walk, it is out of the way because she doesn't want to run into people and have them like see for themselves that he can't remember his life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which is really sad. And this is the moment where I was like, is Stephen going to die in this book?
I know. It's funny because Lauren was reading this book at my house and she was very sick. And I got this book off the shelf for the podcast, and your little bookmark is just literally just a tissue.
I'm so sorry.
It's not used.
I know, but that's weird.
It did make me laugh. But yeah, you kept looking over and being like, Hannah, is Stephen gonna be okay? I was like, I can't tell you. I can't tell you anything. He's fine for this book.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they get abducted, and that one definitely is a cliffhanger.
Mm-hmm.
Because for a quick little cutaway, we see Ron and Pauline on their first date.
Yeah.
And he stayed over at her house last night. And she is suspicious.
Dude, I suspected her the entire fucking book. You know what? I kind of still do. I know that there is a conclusion, but I'm like, why was she so sus?
She's a little too, like, cool as a cucumber about
Into
all
it.
of this. And, like, she's, like, clearly interested in this cold case and Bethany.
Right. But it seems like she wants to know what they know.
Yeah. I think her interest in Ron is genuine, but, like, it worked out really well for her that she could use that almost.
Yeah.
It feels like she's inserting herself into the whole situation through Ron, despite them, like, having great chemistry,
Mm-hmm.
super casual. Like, Ron is really, like, infatuated in that she's not really clingy, and she's just like, this can be casual, it's fine, like, I'm not really looking for anything, but, like, they just get along great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know, it's like the book doesn't really give you any specific reasons not to trust her, but I the whole time did not trust her.
I got vibes from her.
She just
in Only Murders in the Building, the first season of that, which we also covered, friggin' Holly, I don't remember her name in that show.
I know what you mean. Yeah, the one who does end up.
Yes, she ends up being the culprit, and she does exactly this. She, like, inserts herself in Steve Martin's life and like gets very involved for no reason.
You're just like, it's an outsider. You're not part of the club yet.
Yeah.
Like, we don't know you.
We don't. Yeah,
but Ron's just, like, telling her stuff because
he do be doing that. Yeah,
because she's telling him about Mike and Bethany's relationship and how they were so close. She reveals to Ron that Mike is gay.
Sorry, Joyce.
He's closeted. Yeah, like, rip. Sorry, Joyce. Your celebrity crush is not interested in you.
Yeah.
You know, he's a public personality, and, like, small town England, he's not out. He's at least publicly.
Started a long time ago.
I think that's also, like, a big reason why his character reminds me of Philip Schofield, because that literally happened. Like, he's been a journalist for a really long time, and, like, 20 years into his career, he finally, like, publicly came out. It was like a whole thing. But he was, like, married with kids, and, like, it was it was a whole thing. But we get back to Elizabeth and Stephen, who are tied up in the back of a van, and they get taken to, like, a really nice house.
Really nice house. Clue library.
Yeah, it's like a really decadent library, and they are greeted by a big dude, Swedish man, and she just in her head starts referring to him as the Viking because he never identifies himself or anything.
Oh, I lost the fact that was just a nickname that she gave him. I kind of thought it was his own nickname for himself.
Did I get it wrong? Or I think she just comes up with that name for him.
And it sticks.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, because he's, like, a big, muscly dude with, like, a beard, and he's Scandinavian. So she's like, okay, I'm just going to call him the Viking.
This works, this fits.
Maybe that's kind of what he uses professionally.
Yeah, because he does not want them to know his real identity.
Not at all.
But he decides that he wants a man named Victor Ilyich dead. And Elizabeth knows Victor, and the Viking knows that Elizabeth knows Victor. And so he's like, you're the perfect person to go kill him because I don't want to.
Yes. I put that I wanted to read a little passage here.
Yeah.
Because it's just a little exchange that Stephen has with the Viking, because, like, this is not Stephen's thing. Like, he's not a super spy. His dementia probably plays into this, but it's very funny how, like, unbothered he is.
Yeah. He knows that Elizabeth was, and that man accepts his wife for everything that she is and has ever been, and I love him for it.
Yep, it's really great. Stephen says, kill him yourself, old chap. Look at the size of you. Much easier for me if somebody else does it, says the Viking. And who better than a former spy, a little old lady, a woman who knows how to kill and who has just pulled off one of the thefts of the century? Who better, Stephen? It's cowardly, says Stephen. Never take the Swedes for cowards. Elizabeth is mulling, pretending to mull, at least, just arranging her cards in order before playing the first one. She doesn't have a great hand, though she does have an ace. She will have to proceed with care. Still not for me, I'm afraid, says Elizabeth to the Viking. If I refuse, the worst you can do is kill me, which is a nuisance for you, and honestly, I've had a fairly good run, and this would be a nice room to die in. Very cozy. The Viking smiles. I think your husband might not agree with that. Perhaps he might like you to stay alive. Stephen shrugs. We all go at some point, my Viking friend. I'd rather she wasn't killed by a cowardly Swede, but best to bow out doing something decent. I'm sure I'd miss her, but someone else would turn up soon enough. Beautiful spies everywhere you look, falling out of trees. I love how he's just like implicitly trusts that Elizabeth's got this and that he can just like fuck with this man until she figures it out.
Yeah, totally.
The banter is so great.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so he wants Elizabeth to kill Victor Ilyich, and she's like, okay, make me. What do you?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Yeah. And he's like, well, if you don't, I will send the footage of you stealing Victor's diamonds, which they did in the last book, to him. So he'll know that it was you and then he'll kill you. And she's like, no, he won't. And he's like, well, fucking fine then. If Victor's not dead in a week, I will kill Joyce.
Yeah, he does. He gets really kind of frustrated with them. It's funny. But yeah, he ends up threatening like, okay, I will kill Joyce if he is not dead in a week. It's clear from the way that Elizabeth is like thinking to herself in her head is that, yes, the diamonds were Victor's, but also she has some sort of relationship with Victor, clearly.
Yeah.
And so they end up being let go, basically, and Bogdan has to come pick them up in the middle of the night. Yeah.
Which he does, of course, at the drop of a hat.
I love Elizabeth says, can you bring us a flask of tea and a gun? He says, okay.
Okay. Yes, I love it.
Donna and Bogdan have been on their second date. Things are going great.
Except that, he gets a call at 2 a.m. and then leaves and she's like, what the fuck? But communication, Bogdan.
Yeah,
it's Elizabeth.
She's like, oh, it's another woman. And it's like, well, yeah, technically, but it's Elizabeth and Stephen.
It's Elizabeth and Stephen, which we all know and love.
So we have Mike Waghorn is in the editing and he's watching old footage of him and Bethany together from 10 years ago. He remembers that she'd been getting really like rude, threatening notes in the office, like left on her desk, in her chair, in her bag. And he wonders if the young woman that replaced her, whose name is Fiona, has anything to do with her disappearance.
Yeah.
And he's pretty sure he's being manipulated by the Thursday Murder Club.
Well, he is.
Right, he is. But in quotes, in such an enjoyable way that perhaps he'll stay on the ride for now.
Yeah.
Actually,
that's what they do. But they do it in such a way where everyone is kind of enjoying it. Everyone's like, okay, well, I mean, I can definitely tell that they're using me. But I like them so much.
But I'm liking it, so
maybe I can be their friend. Yeah.
Pauline and him kind of chat for a bit, and she becomes a little bit more determined to find out what happened to Bethany, which again, like this motivation, she's not sharing with the murder club, and she's just like warming up to Ron. And it's just, I don't know. I feel like I would be such a defensive friend. With this new lady cozying up to Ron, I'd be like, we don't know you.
We don't know you. Why are you so interested?
Why are you here?
Yeah. Yeah.
She starts showing up to their little like crew meetings.
She does. It bugged me too. I still feel quite bugged about it. I think that was the point, but still. Mike, on the other hand, he's very distraught. Like, he has been for a really long time. Like, you can tell that he genuinely cared about Bethany and wants to know what happened to her.
We have the scene where Connie does some reconnaissance in prison, and she goes to talk to Heather Garbett, who is paranoid, scared.
Yeah.
She's like going to be released soon. She's almost served 10 years in prison.
Mhm.
She's like, look, I don't want to get involved in anything. People are watching me. I'm about to get released. Like, please just leave me alone. Leave me out of this. I don't want anything to do with this.
Just being very smart about it.
Yeah. And Connie, as like a peace offering, had brought her some knitting supplies and knitting plans to kind of like butter her up. And like, it does not work
Yeah.
at all. She
Yeah.
has no interest in being associated, especially just like association with Connie in
Right.
prison is like
I mean,
not good.
let's leave one criminal lifestyle to just hop on in cahoots with Connie. No.
Right. No, thank you.
Yeah.
Chris and Donna start
Yes.
actually doing some like investigative work here.
They do. They don't do a ton, like I said, but they do, honestly, just enough to make Pauline look more suspicious.
I'm telling you, yeah. So, I mean, they're not doing this in like an official capacity
Yeah.
because technically this case is closed. I mean, it's unsolved, but nobody's really looking into it. And they are trying to find out how Bethany's route out of town happened because she was caught on like no security cameras.
Mhm.
She was caught at like 3 a.m., I think,
Mhm.
on like a road out of town with somebody in the passenger seat next to her.
Mhm.
And then immediately after that is supposedly when the crash happened. And there's no sign of another person
Right.
from the crash.
Yeah, just her.
And then like otherwise, like midnight to 3 a.m. was supposedly driving around or in town, but there's no security footage of her. So they're trying to figure out how that could be.
Right. It seems deliberate
Mhm.
because the CCTV is everywhere. And they find that she had gone to a residential building called Juniper Court, like an apartment building. And of course, they get a little cliffhanger here. I say though, we just say what it was.
Right. Yeah. They get a call that says that Heather Garbett has been found dead in her cell just after talking to Connie, which she fucking knew.
Yeah.
She said, leave me alone. I don't want anything to do with this.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's a note in her cell that they found that read, "They are going to kill me. Only Connie Johnson can help me now," which is so confusing.
It is. So she also died by knitting needle to
Oh, yeah.
like she was like stabbed with it. Was it through her neck or in her chest? I can't remember. She was stabbed with a knitting
Doesn't
needle.
matter. It's
Like, I
horrible.
was like, oh shit.
Yeah. Yeah, which sucks because, I mean, directly caused by the Thursday Murder Club friggin' bringing all this stuff back up. Otherwise, she would have been out of jail. She would have been like
good
living
to
life.
go.
Yeah.
Mhm. This poor woman, honestly, for something like this to happen at the end of her prison sentence, like if you're gonna die in prison, like kill me on day 2.
Yeah.
Don't let me serve my 10 years and then kill me.
It's really quite
Fucking-
sad.
It's awful. I feel
Yeah.
so bad for her. I mean, she was literally, I mean, she was involved in the whole fraud. She's not, not guilty,
Yeah.
but her involvement was tangential
Mhm.
compared to a lot of people. And yeah, she took the full brunt of it and then died in prison. It's awful.
Yeah, we can talk about that. So Joanna comes back, Joyce's daughter, with some things that she found from the financials of the case. And it indicates that the money laundered from Heather Garbett's accounts that were connected to Jack Mason. So that's why Heather Garbett went down, is because they were able to like get her name like directly linked to it. But they were found using aliases. So the aliases that they found were Karen Whitehead and Robert Brown. And they have no idea what those two mean.
And so Ron, who apparently back in the day is like at least familiar with Jack.
Yeah.
So he's gonna confront Jack a little bit, but also kind of like butter him up, buddy with him
Yeah.
about what they found. And Elizabeth's gonna look into the new names. And then Joyce decides to look into the bullying notes that Bethany was receiving at work.
Yeah. So lots going on. They break up. Let's break up and look for clues.
Yeah, essentially. And they pretty much stay broken up for a while
Yeah.
following these different leads.
Yeah. So do we want to like go one lead at a time?
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah. So let's do Ron and Jack first.
Okay. I love this interaction.
It's pretty good.
It's very wholesome. And Richard Osman's way of taking a criminal and making you love them.
Making you like them pretty much immediately.
Yeah. It's just,
And like,
it's so good.
and we know this man pinned this shit on a woman who just died in prison. And we're still just like, nah.
Oh, but he's so fun though. He's so sweet.
Him and Ron just, again, like great chemistry between these characters.
Mhm.
Like they kind of act like two like good old boys that have known each other for like 30 years and
Yeah.
are just like,
Yeah.
they jump into like playing pool together and they're kind of just talking while they're playing billiards. And Jack confirms that he was involved in the fraud, but that the evidence that the Thursday Murder Club is not enough to convict him on. So he's feeling really chill about this whole thing.
Yeah.
And he says that even he has lost track of the money. And that like that's part of the reason he hasn't gone down for it is because the money
He
that was
doesn't have it.
supposedly laundered,
Yeah.
he doesn't have it and doesn't know
Yeah.
where it is.
Never reclaimed it. And he says, look, I did not have anything to do with Heather Garbutt's death.
Yeah.
And I also didn't kill Bethany. But then
Yeah.
he's all like, but I do know for a fact that Bethany is dead.
Like she's confirmed dead,
dead.
but it wasn't me.
But it wasn't me. And I ain't gonna tell you none.
But we're chill. He's so
We're
like
chill.
good with like he and Ron.
Yeah.
He sounds like a shithead. And you read this chapter and you're like, he's all right.
He's all right. They have such a mutual respect for each other. And it's just like even though we've lived different lives, we can be bros. And
Yeah.
it's especially brotherly bonding for some reason that always really gets me. And it warms my heart.
Yeah. It's good shit.
It is.
Like you said, Richard Osman is just good at making you like people.
Yeah. Yeah.
So kind of a side thread that's happening at the same time. We're introduced to a man named Andrew Everton, and he is a chief constable of the local police.
Mhm.
And he's coming on Mike's show to be interviewed. As he's sitting in the studio getting ready and stuff, he recognizes one of the members of the Thursday Murder Club before his interview. And he's
Mhm.
like, I'm going to look into that. And he plans on visiting Cooper's Chase. Everton is an aspiring author, but like the books are bad.
He's funny. He cares so much about his books. But
Yeah.
they're not good.
But they're not good. So he makes up his whole farce to go to Cooper's Chase he's going to do like a local author reading for them so that he can meet with Ibrahim, who he recognized in the news segment footage.
Yes, and because he has been talking to Connie in prison. So, and Andrew like clocked that, knows that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
hey, what the heck?
They're watching Who Visits with Connie in prison. And he's like, oh, it's you.
Right.
So he reads his couple chapters of his book.
It's so funny. They keep interrupting him. It's so, I mean, no disrespect. It's so old people though. It's
Oh, it really is.
It's just
That whole chapter. Yeah. They don't understand what's happening in the book.
yeah.
They're stopping to ask like inane questions. and the book is bad.
Yeah.
And it's just it's a cringy scene in that like I feel like if I was there I'd be getting some secondhand embarrassment.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, it
From
would be
both sides, honestly. Them asking questions and him reading the book, I'd be like, I gotta get out of here.
This is too much. Yeah. But Joyce,
Yeah.
being the like wholesome queen that she is
Yeah.
actually like really into his book.
Mm. She even buys them afterwards.
She's blessed Joyce. But
Yeah.
he asks Ibrahim afterwards and to find out why he was talking to Connie. And Ibrahim
Patient confidentiality.
Mhm.
Boot.
got him.
Yeah.
So after Ron leaves Jack's house, he's kind of sitting at home contemplating buying a helicopter just because he can.
Rich
So like
people?
this man doesn't have the laundering money, but also
he's
not
fine.
hurting. He's rolling. And he receives an email from Bethany's killer that says, "Long time no see, just a friendly reminder to keep your eyes open. Talk soon."
Obs. He's involved. Heather just died. Things are getting brought back to the surface. Like the Thursday Murder Club is setting shit in motion.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this woman has died because of them, which they kind of gloss over, but
Yeah.
so Chris and Donna visit Juniper Court, that apartment complex they found, and take notes of some names and car tag numbers present. Just general kind of investigative work, the dull kind of investigative work.
Mm-hmm.
So they're working on that. And Joyce and Pauline go out to lunch together and talk about Bethany. They also talk a lot about Ron. And Joyce is all in on this relationship. She's
I don't even like this chapter. Like, I get that they have a little bonding moment. And I feel like I do feel like this chapter was meant for us to start liking Pauline more.
mhm.
But I just got more suspicious. And I was,
The suspicion just really got in my way.
I didn't like her.
Because it's funny because it makes me wonder if Osmond is going to do something with her in the future, or if just this book kind of wraps up her storyline, or maybe she'll just kind of be around
Right.
in the future ones. He's clearly so good at making us like characters that aren't necessarily good people. And
Mhm.
with her, it didn't really work for me, like
No.
because I was so suspicious of
Yeah.
her. But you're given every reason to like her.
Yeah.
You just don't. You're just suspicious. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's fishy.
It is. She's fishy. Even with Joyce, I think she's fishy. Like, I feel like she was trying too hard to connect with Joyce in ways that they didn't really connect.
Yeah.
Why? Anyways, Elizabeth and Joyce have a very crazy sequence of events that go down. Okay, so first we meet Victor Ilyich, the man that the Viking really wants Elizabeth to kill, kind of on his own. And we just kind of get a glimpse of what his life is like. He receives an email of the photos of Elizabeth and Joyce stealing his diamonds. And so he's like, oh, that's where my diamonds went. But literally, like, no part of him is really that angry.
He's not that fussed about
He's
it.
like,
He
"Oh,
recognizes Elizabeth.
Elizabeth."
Yeah. It's just like, oh, it's good to see her.
Yeah.
He doesn't really give a shit. Which is kind of funny that once again the Viking just totally undermined.
Yeah. Right. He does not get it. And already you can kind of tell that Victor at some point was in love with Elizabeth, and maybe still is, because everyone is. Every man that comes into this woman's life is in love with her.
Yeah. It's kind of implied. Like, I think Stephen is her third husband.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think she kind of like got around. Like, I think
She did. And she kind of
slept
had
around.
to, because
Right.
she
I mean,
was a spy. Like, she couldn't really have steady attachments.
she just has a past. And it's never implied that, I really enjoy this, that it's never implied in a negative way.
No, right.
And like Stephen also never,
No.
very aware of that and does not care at all. And I love that.
love Stephen.
He's the
God.
best. Elizabeth here, she makes a call here, and
I'm pissy about it.
I'm pissy about it too. Okay, so she plans to go to London to kill Victor and plans to take Joyce with her. They take the train to London, and Elizabeth tells Joyce where they're going and why, but not that Joyce's life is threatened at all,
Yeah.
which problem number one.
Yeah.
I don't agree with that. I think she should be honest with Joyce about that.
I totally agree. And Joyce is like, okay, does not believe
Yeah.
it for
Right.
because, like, why would Elizabeth go kill somebody and bring her?
Right. Like, and like they went through a lot together in the past book
Mm-hmm.
where her, a colleague from Elizabeth's past came back and then did end up dying. And like,
Yeah.
I think Joyce puts it kind of in that category of like, Elizabeth's not really going to kill him. She just writes it off as like, oh, it's Elizabeth being Elizabeth.
And they have a lot of trust at this point. I feel like they are each other's
Mhm.
best friends. Yeah. So they get there. They go up to Victor's apartment in his penthouse, nice ass suite, swimming pool and everything. He lets them in because he's like, oh my God, Elizabeth, hi! But then she immediately starts threatening him with a gun and is like, I gots to kill you, man. I'm sorry. And Joyce is like, what the fuck?
Joyce totally caught off guard, didn't think any of this was going to happen. And she tells Elizabeth in the moment, I will never forgive you if you go through with this,
Yeah.
especially like with me here. But like Joyce just, she's so wholesome and she's so invested in this situation.
Mm-hmm.
It makes me so upset. And Elizabeth walks Victor to the bathroom and the gun goes off.
Yeah. And Joyce like starts sobbing and then, okay, so what actually happened, Elizabeth and Victor like come back out of the bathroom. Victor is alive. Elizabeth like ditches the SIM card in her phone. And basically she's like, hey, Joyce, super sorry, but clearly my phone was being bugged and like the Viking could listen in. And you being here with your genuine reaction to me killing this man allows him to think that it actually happened when it didn't. So sorry, babe.
But I just used you.
No.
It makes me so angry on Joyce's behalf. And Joyce, because she's wholesome and sweet and just a good friend, like it does make her angry and she is frustrated, but she understands and forgives Elizabeth very quickly. And
It's
I
bullshit.
still haven't quite gotten over it.
I'd be like, I cannot believe that you did that to me.
And she still doesn't know Elizabeth is doing all of this because Joyce's life is in danger. Like
Yeah.
she still doesn't know that the main motivation here is that Elizabeth is worried for her, which is a
Mhm.
whole other level of like, please be honest with me about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, she just leaves her out of the loop in a way that would make me feel so exposed and untrusted and
Mhm.
just
Yeah.
sucks.
It's less of like, oh, you were protecting me. And more of like, I don't feel like you can handle this, so I'm not going to include you. But I am going to use the fuck out of you.
I'm literally going to use your genuine emotional reaction to thinking a human being was just murdered in front of you, which do I think Joyce could have faked this and been a believable actress? No.
No.
It wouldn't have worked that way.
She
It
would have just had to
wouldn't
come
have
up with a
worked that
different
way.
plan.
Yeah, but just like maybe fake it in some other way that doesn't include lying to Joyce about it. I just don't.
Yeah.
I don't like to see
I
Joyce
don't-
lied to. It
I
upset
don't
me.
either. And I feel like Elizabeth kind of has this moment in every book where I'm like, I don't know if I like you. Like she does some things.
She's detached in a way that I mean makes sense for
It tracks.
her whole life and career, but
Does.
yeah,
And she is lucky as all get out to have Joyce in her life because that is one forgiving friend.
she is the heart of this whole series. I feel like she's the like center core that keeps them all glued together in a way.
Yeah.
What they end up having to do is they actually knock Victor out, like willingly, medically. They knock him out, stuff him in a duffel bag, smuggle him back to Cooper's Chase, and he's going to be staying with Joyce for a while,
Yeah.
which is great.
It's
Love that
amazing.
those two together.
Wonderful.
It's
I
so good.
really, really, really enjoy Victor.
I did not anticipate
Um,
him becoming as big of a part of this story as he does,
Yeah.
and it was a very welcome surprise.
Yeah.
So that's what Joyce and Elizabeth have gotten up to this whole time. Bogdan also helped them with like smuggling Victor back and
Mhm.
stuff like that.
Mhm.
Meanwhile, Chris has been noticed and asked to appear on Southeast Tonight.
Mhm.
He comes into the studio to get like screen tested and figure out like if it's going to work or not. But once he sees Donna in the studio and kind of once the whole crew sees Donna in the studio, they all realize, oh, like she's the one who should be doing this. Like,
Yeah.
she's more comfortable in front of the cameras. She's an attractive woman. Like, she's just for
Yeah.
TV purposes, she's the one who
Poor
needs to be
Chris.
doing
They're
this.
like, oh, just kidding.
he was so excited too.
He was.
And then he even is like, even he can tell, like, oh yeah, it should be Donna, but I really wanted to do this.
Yeah. But he's so supportive of her. It's very nice. And Donna does. She goes on the TV show a couple of times throughout the book and she crushes it.
So we also get a little bit in Connie's perspective here, and she kind of bribes her way back into Heather's cell post murder to try and see if she can find anything about like what happened, because she doesn't even really know what the note was supposed to mean.
Yeah.
Of like, only Connie Johnson can help me now. She doesn't fully grasp what like that was supposed to mean. So she ends up finding a hidden message from Heather, and she had like rolled it up and like stuck it, I think, in like one of the legs of her bed or something like that. And it's poems. It's about 6 pages of poems, which she's not super sure what to make of.
Yeah, which Ibrahim really gets into. That's kind of like his contribution, is he tries his best to decipher these poems because he thinks they're really important, and everyone else is just like, they're just poems.
Right. So we have a little crew meeting here at
Yes.
Joyce's house.
I love it when everyone gets back together and fills everyone
I
else
know.
in on what's going on. It's the best.
These little meetings are so good. Pauline is there. Why?
Why the fuck is Pauline there?
Why does Pauline get to know about this whole Victor situation? Ron just brings her along.
Yeah.
And everybody seems to be pretty much okay with it. And I feel like Elizabeth, of all people, will be like, absolutely not.
Yeah.
Who are you?
Yeah.
Get out of here.
But Elizabeth seems fine with it too. And again, like, we had just gotten a chapter, or we get one just after this or something, of Pauline and Ron getting a massage. And he's got this like hard exterior, but he ends up really liking it. And so she was right. And so I feel like that's meant to be like, let's start liking Pauline. And, you know, she's good for him. But the fact that she's here in this meeting, I'm like, I don't care. I think this is weird. They've known each other for like a week.
Right. If that. And I think we're meant to feel suspicious of her.
Yeah.
But especially Elizabeth, being the kind of suspicious, slightly paranoid person she is, her having no qualms about Pauline being there and being on the inner circle, I think added to my suspicion of Pauline, because I was like, they're all accepting this woman way too quickly.
Yeah.
This is bad. She's going to find out stuff. She's a double agent. And every scene with her made me spiral deeper into a theory that she was no good.
Yep. I agree. So, quick deviation. Andrew Everton meets in public with Mike to discuss not only Bethany, but now Heather's murder and how they connect. So, Andrew is like behind the scenes also working these cases because he's the chief constable, but like he's definitely a new character. But he keeps popping up.
And he worked Bethany's case 10 years ago when it first happened. And so, you know, he's familiar with Mike from 10 years ago when that all happened. So one of those people that you hear about with true crime who are keeping these cold cases alive, who like keep nudging the police and like nudging the public's awareness of the cases to just keep them in people's minds, because otherwise it's so easy for them to just kind of like fall to the wayside. So yeah,
it is kind of crazy listening to true crime, like, because the way that we consume it, like I usually will listen to it in podcast form, like an hour and a half, you know, the entire story is done in an hour and a half, but sometimes it's like 30 years worth of that story.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
It impacts people's lives in such a way that like I can't imagine.
Yeah. And I was wondering, I was like, Andrew's a new character. He doesn't really have much of a through line, but he just pops up here and there. I was like, how are they going to use him? I know they're going to use him somehow.
He has connections that are useful.
Waiting for
How are we going to rope this man in to the crew?
Exactly.
Because they like Victor is pretty much just happy to have like something to do.
Yeah.
He's clearly like a retired criminal. I think he still has his fingers like puppeting some other stuff, but like he's retired, essentially not actively doing anything anymore. And he's just excited to be a part of something. Bless him. He's all in on this cold case and working with the crew and recognizes that they have to fake his death. And so he gets naked, lies down in a fake grave. They're like sprinkling dirt, and like Pauline's like
Doing
putting
his
like
makeup.
a fake bullet wound on him, and they're taking these proof photos to send to the Vikings so that they can prove, hey, he's dead.
He's dead.
We dealt with it.
There is a couple lines. I don't have the book with me, but at the very end of this chapter where he is reflecting on his life and thinking about how nice it is to have friends and how he
Yes.
wants these people to be his friends. And like maybe he'll move to Cooper's Chase and become a part of the gang, like if they'll have him. And Elizabeth's like, hey, stop smiling. You're supposed to be dead. And it warmed my soul. I started crying and just
Yeah, I mean, it's true. Did he really need multi-billion-pound deals when there was Joyce and Elizabeth and Alan? Alan is
Alan the
Joyce's dog, which we haven't really mentioned so far in this, but like he's in every scene basically that takes place at Joyce's house, and it's great. He's
I love it.
10 out of 10 character. Alan, we love you.
Yeah.
When there was Joyce and Elizabeth and Alan and a whole gang to be a part of, perhaps they will solve this murder. Perhaps he can walk Alan through the woods. And Ron had mentioned snooker. Victor had no one to play snooker with anymore. He used to play with an old Kazakh who had a jeweler's in Sydenham, but he had died, 3 years ago? He looks up at the faces above him once more. Maybe he just got lucky. And then Elizabeth says, for God's sake, Victor, stop smiling and shut your eyes. You're dead. He's doing all this, laying naked in a grave. And
It's just the best.
it's he merges this like cozy, like wholesome with like the British wit, and then like this, it's like a sitcom. There's like situational funny things happening, and like, but there's always something serious going on that's like hanging over you. I just the tone of these books is so good.
Yeah. It's pretty damn near perfect.
Yeah.
And we have literally just met Victor, and I'm already crying over him.
Yep. Already
How does he
like,
do that?
he's part of the family now.
Please join this gang. Like with Pauline, we're like, no, don't like disrupt the gang. But I mean, again, that has to be on purpose, right? Because Victor's here, and I'm like, please join their gang. I love
I'm
you.
just like, come on. Yes, like be my friend. You're welcome. Join us. Yes.
Yeah.
I instantly wanted him as part of the crew. Yeah.
And I was worried because I was like, that probably means he's gonna die.
yeah. Like, well, because that's what happened in the last book.
Exactly.
Like, spoilers if you're here, but like Elizabeth Colleague, like
And
almost
ex-husband.
dies,
Yeah.
and then he like goes into hiding, and then he actually dies, and he's like a character that's only there for a very small section of the book, and it's like, please don't kill
Please don't do
Victor.
that
And
again.
I was not attached to that man like I was attached to Victor.
Yeah.
Like immediately, I was like, Victor is. I love him.
Yeah. Yeah. How many times can we clutch our hearts?
I
throughout
know.
this episode.
It's true.
Okay. So, another really wholesome scene. Ibrahim is like, there's something in this poem. I'm going to figure it out. And so, what does he do? He decides to employ Ron's grandson, Kendrick, which, if you remember him from the second book, they developed a relationship when Ibrahim was basically bedridden. It's so cute. And Kendrick
cute.
notices that the handwriting in the different notes in her suicide note and the poems are different. This sweet little boy. And then he's like, I gotta go. Mom's calling me.
Oh my God. Just Kendrick would love Nancy Drew.
Yes, he would. I totally agree.
So the Viking, just covering his ass, and also just he knows he's working with former spies and con men. So he breaks into Victor's penthouse, and it's kind of set aside here. You get a little bit of lore on the Viking is that he's a very rich man, and his business, that was like the official side of his money, is he makes high security home for like celebrities and very rich people. So this door that Victor has on his penthouse apartment, the Vikings company like made
it.
And so he's like, I know exactly how to break in here. And so he does, and analyzes the house, goes in the bathroom, and sees that the bullet hole is like way up by the ceiling,
which
seems like an oversight on Elizabeth's behalf.
I don't know how believable that bit is, because Elizabeth is so methodical and obviously faked this man's death super well. So, girl, what you doing pointing your gun at the ceiling?
I don't know. It really feels like a misstep because Elizabeth would never.
She would never.
I tried to make excuses for this. I was like, well, maybe she was really just jarred by the situation because she felt so bad about what she was doing to Joyce. But like, that's not Elizabeth.
It's not Elizabeth.
She's cold and calculated, and like, I don't think she's heartless, but I think she is so able to like set all that shit aside and focus on what she's doing. I just can't imagine her just being like, oh yeah, like let me just like shoot this wherever.
Yeah, no. But you know what? I'm okay with it for the way that this storyline plays out. It's fine. It's fine.
100%.
It's unrealistic, but it's fine.
If this is our biggest nitpick about this book, then we're it's fine.
Yeah, right.
So he knows it's all faked. And so now he's like, well, now I have to kill Victor and Joyce.
And he texts her. He's like, I'm coming for you. Because honestly, I don't think that's super smart. But I think he's trying to be something he's really not.
Right. Like you're getting that vibe, right? Because like he's trying to be really hard about this whole thing. And then like when Elizabeth and Stephen were like talking back to him, it was like a teacher that had lost control of the classroom a little bit. Like, he was just like, no, wait, this is not the power dynamic this is supposed to be. He's just not great at being like a criminal mastermind as much as he wants to be.
And the fact that he wouldn't just go kill him himself makes me think he doesn't really like killing people.
He doesn't want to. Elizabeth is kind of like racking her brain to remember as much as she can about like the whole evening that they were abducted.
Right.
And she asks Stephen, and he has, despite being really like present and calm the whole night, like he has forgotten that entire event, which like really rattles her. Despite like somebody coming to kill her and coming to kill Joyce, like this is by far rattled her more than anything else so far in the book. Like she takes this really hard that he has completely forgotten this. Yeah.
Can we follow this line of thought? The Stephen, okay. But Stephen and Bogdan play chess a few chapters from this. And Stephen does remember being in the library, but he's not remembering it in the way that it actually happened. He thinks that he was in his friend's house.
Right.
And he asks Bogdan to go to Brighton because he knows this antiquities dealer that has knowledge about rare one-off books that he saw in that library, to like try to remember who this friend is, you know? And Bogdan doesn't super really know what's going on, but he's like down immediately because
he's like, yeah, sure,
that's
I'll help
Bogdan.
you. He just doesn't remember the greater context of the whole evening.
Right.
It just like flashes.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, Bogdan is just like, yeah, man, let's go. Like we'll go on a little drive together for the day. It'll be a whole outing.
So cute.
It is cute. They discuss while on the outing that Stephen's worried about Elizabeth, and he's worried that something is wrong with himself. So it's like he's having that self-awareness that he's forgetting things, and he's clearly like distressing the people around him because he's forgetting things, but he doesn't know when he's forgetting things, or he doesn't know what he forgot. It's heartbreaking.
It is. Especially because Stephen is so wholesome and wonderful, but then you also get these like amazing little moments where Stephen is totally aware that Bogdan is dating Donna because it's obvious, right? But Elizabeth hasn't picked up on it. And Steven's like,
Totally.
I cannot believe that she hasn't picked up on it. So like, that's an intense moment of clarity, you know?
right. Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
it gave me hope for Steven. And I really loved those moments where he was like this clever, like you can see who he was before he started going through this.
Mm-hmm. And just how perfect he and Elizabeth were and are for each other. Like,
Yeah.
just, yeah.
Yeah.
So Donna and Bogdan take Stephen to the antiques dealer, and they leave him, the dealer, with like a list of the book names that Stephen saw,
Mhm.
because they were like rare first editions or, you know, stuff
Right.
like that.
Can maybe
he's like,
find
I just
out who
need you-
bought them.
Track these down, see when they were bought or something like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the whole sort of line about that. But like,
Yeah.
man, that scene where like everybody's at the house together and Elizabeth is like panicking because Stephen forgot that whole scene, and she has to like step away to cry, which like that is not,
Yeah.
this is like what we're talking about. Like, Elizabeth is not a heartless person, but she keeps that shit on,
So
like
deep in there.
separated, locked down in a separate room, and it's, you can really, I don't know, it's an important character moment for her that she's
Mhm.
actually expressing emotion, even if she has to do it in private.
Yeah. And she's doing it in private to protect Stephen because she doesn't want to hurt him. Because, I mean, he already notices that something is wrong, and it's distressing him to know that it's probably his fault, but he doesn't get it. And so she's protecting him by not breaking down in front of him.
So Bogdan also drives Ron and Victor over to Jack Mason's house. This has the energy of a dad taking his sons for a play date.
It does.
It really, like, Bogdan drops them off.
And picks
Like,
them
you go-
up.
You kids have fun. And like Ron and Victor and Jack have like a play date,
They
and they have
do.
a great time.
Dude, they do. And on their play date, it's also so just great. Because again, like Victor is there now. The mutual respect is still there. They still like are buds without really knowing each other at all.
They know enough about each other to know that they all have like ties to like criminality in some way.
Yeah.
And they're like, they know like these dudes are going to keep their mouths shut. I can be myself here.
Yeah.
And that's like kind of what they bond over in a way.
Yeah.
And it's,
And playing snooker billiards, which I love as well.
yeah.
Give men something
They're-
to do while they're talking, and they're way more likely to open up and be vulnerable.
It's true. It's true. Ron, when Bogdan picks up his sons from their play date, Ron asks if he can drop him off at Pauline's place on the way home because he's going to hang out with her that afternoon. And guess where Pauline lives? She lives in Juniper Court, where Bethany Waits was last seen the night she died.
I felt so validated in this moment.
I know. And then you're like,
I knew
"Mhm."
it.
But then the whole time after that, I'm like, when are they going to call her on this shit?
Yeah. Well,
And it
another infuriating thing about these books that I love so much, but it's annoying. The several characters will have pieces of information, and it takes a while for them to share.
Mm-hmm. They have to have a little powwow. They have to have a meeting, and it takes a long time for that to happen sometimes. And you're just like,
And so
I need
you
y'all
have put
to,
things
like,
together before they have, and it's annoying.
yeah. It's a lot of mysteries, though.
It is.
It's just kind of how it rolls. The reader always knows more.
I get it. I do get it. But at this point, I'm like, what's going to happen before they all understand?
Elizabeth and Joyce are on another outing, another mission. They are going to London to speak with Fiona Clements, who is Mike Waghorn's new on-screen partner.
Or she was.
Well, she was the replacement after Bethany, and she
Mhm.
has since moved on to like bigger and better things.
Yeah.
Much bigger celebrity now.
Yeah.
And they essentially blackmail her.
Dude, this is crazy. Elizabeth pretends to faint mid like taping of her show
Mhm.
in order to get Fiona in the room. So it's like super manipulative. And then she also just slips a gun into Joyce's handbag. Again, without Joyce's knowledge or
Yes.
like
She just-
acceptance. Like,
She uses Joyce again
Yeah.
in a way of like, if Joyce doesn't know what's going on, this will work better. And man, I think this just it pulls on a particular like string of mine, a button of mine that just like,
Mhm.
I hate being out of the loop.
mm-hmm.
Tell me what's going on.
And manipulated. Yeah. Yeah, and they do. They like bully her into having drinks with them after the taping of her show is done. And she goes because they're like these cute little older women.
Right. I mean, like fully manipulated, just as I would be like, I'd be like, well, I can't say no. Like, okay.
What are they going to say?
Doesn't matter what I had planned. Yeah. So they do meet up for drinks, and she tells them that she also got weird threatening notes at the studio,
Yeah.
and tells them that she doesn't know anything about Bethany's death and that they should look into Carwin, the producer, and the makeup artist, Pauline.
Uh-huh.
We've been saying.
Yeah. Yeah. And obviously it wasn't her, because if she was getting threatening notes, just really quickly on that, I cannot imagine being in a profession where it's so wrapped up in your public persona and like you have to keep your shit together to be able to climb the ladder in the way that you want.
Mm-hmm.
But you're such in the public eye that people could literally threaten your life, but you want it so bad that you're going to push through that and like not quit. Or especially women, I'm sure, deal with it more and worse. And it just seems really scary and awful.
Mm-hmm. There's a content creator I watch. She's a Twitch streamer. Her sport of choice, her way of like exercising, is she does pole. And so she posts like on her Instagram, and she'll post like pole pictures and videos and stuff, which to her, and like it is a sport. It's like an athlete. Like you have to be fit and strong as hell to do that shit.
Yeah, yeah.
And like it's her hobby, it's her exercise, it's her outlet. And like to be able to share that and want to actually build a community around that, you're also putting yourself in an incredibly vulnerable position.
Yeah. I'm
And
sure
she
gets
just posted
hate.
on her stories today that someone had reached out to a photographer that she'd worked with in the past, trying to buy pictures of her. And she was like, y'all, what the fuck? Like, it's shit like that. It's like, that's so
Yeah.
creepy and upsetting.
Yeah. The way when you originally said pole, I was thinking of like pole jumping, like,
Oh, like vaulting?
yes. So I was like, okay, where are we going with this? I get it now. Okay. Yes, totally. That's, yeah. People are creeps. People are awful.
Yeah. And they will do the weird, creepy thing. Somebody always will.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Okay. So Jack, Ron, and Victor, they bonded.
they did.
And Jack confessed to them that he does know who killed Bethany
Right.
and that it was his business partner, and he will not identify them.
Right.
And he says they killed her way before the car went over the cliff, and she was actually never in the car. Her body wasn't. She was shot and buried somewhere else with a phone with Heather Garbutt's fingerprints all over it and incriminating messages from Jack on the phone, which frames them both for murder. So he's
Yeah.
explaining that the reason he knows all of this is because he was being blackmailed with Heather, and then Heather was made into a scapegoat.
Right.
So he's been trying to find Bethany's body
Mhm.
with no luck.
For
all these
10
years.
years.
Right.
Yeah.
He thinks she was buried on his property, right?
Yeah. He
And
does.
he's been digging up his
or
own property.
Maybe he bought that property in order to try to find her. Either way, like he owns where he thinks she is.
Right.
And he's like, we couldn't come forward with this information because then we would get imprisoned for the murder probably. And that's also why Heather was so paranoid, because this is still hanging over her all these years later. So even though she
Mhm.
went to jail for 10 years for fraud, she can't say anything still because then she might go to jail for murder.
Right. Her prints are literally buried with a dead body. So
Yeah.
it's great blackmail. it's working.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he has been looking for this body for 10 years and has not been able to find it. And then back at home that night, Bogdan like kind of offhandedly mentioned to Donna that Pauline lives at Juniper Court.
So some of our characters get the information.
Some people are putting together things, but not all of them.
Yeah.
But they decide here that they're officially dating.
Yay!
Love. We
Love.
So Elizabeth realizes, okay, we have got to find Bethany's body. That is the clue that is going to tell us everything we need to know. She thinks it's super suspicious that Jack bought Heather's old house, which it is.
Yeah.
Like Heather went to jail and Jack bought her house.
Okay.
He never sold it.
Yeah.
Never lived there or allowed anybody else to live there. It's just sitting empty, unused.
Yeah.
So she thinks the body is buried there.
Yeah. And literally when they get there, it's clear that he has been like digging up ground and like putting it back. So yeah. And this is when she enlists the help of Constable Andrew Everton. So this is where I was like, aha, that's why he's in this book.
Yes. How will we use him? Here we go.
Yes.
We need a warrant to go like properly actually dig up to look for Bethany.
Yeah.
And she also asks him for help here.
Yeah.
Protecting her and Joyce from the Viking, which I feel like we're supposed to think Elizabeth is cracking a little bit, that like, I think the Stephen thing is getting to her more than she likes to show. But I do think it's why she's slipping, like why the bullet went up by the ceiling. I think it's why she's like recognizing that she can't keep Stephen and herself and Joyce safe. Like she needs help. Like I think this is her breaking down those little emotional walls that she keeps around herself.
Yeah. But the bro doesn't. Like he's like, I'll see what I can do, but this doesn't come back. He doesn't help them with protection.
There's not a whole lot
that
happens there. So the Viking, we get a chapter from his perspective, and he is lying in wait in Joyce's flat when she comes home.
And she's just like, hey, what's up?
Her and Alan are both like, oh, hi. Nice to see you. The dog unfazed, Joyce unfazed.
Yeah.
He's caught off guard by this.
Yeah. She's so unfailingly nice to him and just like starts talking to him about random things. Like they talk about cryptocurrency. She like makes him a cup of tea. She's just like, look, you know, if you're going to kill me, like we might as well just like have a nice time until then.
Like she really, you know, maybe Elizabeth doesn't give Joyce enough credit here because
I agree.
In this scene, she nails it.
Yeah.
Like she manipulates this man. She stays cool and calm and collected. And she drugs this man with the tea.
Yes. She's even like, don't worry, it's not drugged. And then it is drugged.
Oh, it's so funny. But they were talking about cryptocurrency and he finds out that she's been investing like not in the smartest way. And he's like, oh, like, let me help you like move your cryptocurrency into like more safe investments. And like, and she just totally disarmed this man.
Yeah.
It's very funny.
Yeah. Got him helping her.
It's great.
Yeah.
So the whole crew shows up, Pauline and Victor as well, to confront the Viking, who is, his name here is revealed to be Henrik.
Because Stephen figured it out. I love that.
His rare books thing was fruitful and they were able to identify him because he bought super rare books.
Yeah.
Which is great.
And this man crumbles so fucking fast.
He folds like a lawn chair, like immediately. And also immediately elects to stay on to help them with the case.
Yeah.
And
he's like,
just as quickly,
okay,
I just as quickly with Victor, I was like, okay, yep, welcome to the team. I didn't question it at all. Just like immediately like, yeah, you're cool. You're allowed.
Yeah. Yeah. They disarm him and he's like, okay, you know what? You're right. Do y'all need help?
I'll help you. Yeah. There's kind of a little aside here where Joyce decides to start writing short stories for a local competition.
Yeah. Inspired by the constable.
Mhm.
Yep. Yeah, and she names and designs her character after her late husband, Jerry. And anytime she thinks about Jerry, it's very sweet.
It's very cute.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mike, you get little bits and bobs from him throughout the book just about how much he misses Bethany, and she encouraged him to come out of the closet and like live authentically. And he really regrets not being able to repay the favor to her. And so it just kind of adds even more importance and weight on like why they were so close and why he feels so strongly about this.
He really, really wants to know what happened to her. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's quite sad. And again, it made me suspicious of Pauline, because Pauline throughout this time is very close with Mike. And I'm like, okay, maybe there was like a jealousy plot involved. Like she wanted to be Mike's best friend, or I don't know, but just Pauline's involvement, it seemed like there was something there.
Yeah. Yeah. We really clearly were not satisfied with the explanation about Pauline.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they start doing official digs on Jack/Heather's property. They do find something in the woods. They find a gun that Jack had mentioned, as well as $100,000. And Joyce is like grilling the investigators for information for her story and stuff, but no Heather's body. They still aren't finding her body, but they are finding stuff.
Yeah.
So they are now employing Henrik, Mr. Cryptocurrency, to help dig through the financial records from the tax fraud, and maybe he can find what Bethany found.
Yeah, and they link it to the last, or one of the last text messages that Bethany had sent Mike, which said, can't mention what it is, but it's absolute dynamite. And they link that to a subsidiary company called Absolute Dynamite,
which had 2 officers on file. One of them is named Karen Whitehead, which is one of the alias names that we had found.
Yeah.
And Joyce happens to recognize the name Michael Gullis,
which they do the whole cliffhanger thing on. But this is a big moment. I didn't think it.
This isn't
very much, but
no, I didn't either. But it's big. It's big here that Joyce recognizes this name.
And then
so Chris and Donna.
This made me really sad. I knew it was going to happen because this is like very Thursday Murder Club book. Like somebody's going to die that you don't necessarily want to die.
I am glad it wasn't Victor or Henrik.
Agreed.
Our 2 new club members, but Jack Mason found dead, gunshot wound to the head.
It's sad.
Definitely looks like suicide, but it's in a weird place.
Right.
He's like in his foyer, I think.
Yeah.
So yeah, Chris and Donna find his body. And
why would he do that? I mean, he had just made 2 new friends that they were going to play snooker with every single week.
Yeah.
Which makes
he had new buddies.
Yeah.
New lust for life. He had made friends. Yeah. So this is fishy. Fiona agrees to help out the Thursday Murder Club. We don't know what she has agreed to do. Elizabeth doing her secretive shit again.
Thing. This is all culminating to Endgame.
Yeah. She asks Fiona for a favor, doesn't tell anybody else what it is.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, this sort of, I think this is the night before, or maybe earlier in the evening, the same night, but this is all culminating. But as it leads up to this, Chris and Donna and Patrice, Donna's mother, they're all at an award ceremony together. And Chris is awarded an excellence award from Constable Everton.
Yeah.
And it's a good little moment for Chris. I feel like he goes really underappreciated a lot of the time. And I think Patrice is really good about pushing him out into the limelight and like accepting praise and like taking compliments. And yeah, it's good. Yeah. It's just a sweet moment.
And in this whole book, he's been feeling so much better about himself. Like the first 2 books he was very insecure. He was very unhealthy, like not feeling good. And in this book, pretty much the entire time, he's just like, I feel great. I'm doing great.
He's doing good. We love to see it.
Yeah.
He was in such a like depression the first book and just not
Mhm.
taking care of himself, and he's come a long way. It's
Yeah.
good to see.
Yeah. But okay, so here we are. We're at the culmination. We're at Endgame. Lots of
the
reveals,
moment.
lots of stuff going on. Everyone gathers at Henrik's, the Vikings' large estate in Staffordshire, and they are planning to do an ambush on the person who killed Bethany, who Joyce has figured out who it is.
Mhm.
Yay.
Everybody's at the mansion getting ready, and they're like, okay, the killer is coming. And then it cuts to the next chapter, and you're like, okay, this is going to be the killer arriving. And who is arriving to the mansion? Constable Andrew Everton.
Not Pauline, guys.
It's not Pauline.
It's not Pauline.
It's not Pauline. Pauline is actually helping them. She's part of the ambush. Pauline's in on it. Not Pauline.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is the like reveal moment of like, it's Constable Andrew Everton, which I did not see this coming.
I didn't either.
Fully just thought, like you said, like, oh, that this man is just brought on because he's a convenience. Adds some like
Yeah.
background flair for the other characters, for Chris and Donna and stuff like
Mhm.
that. Nope.
Nope.
He is way more important than we thought.
And Pauline is totally a red herring. I do think
Oh, I mean,
you're meant to be
it's kind of a
suspicious of her
textbook.
the whole time.
Yeah.
But I kind of also knew that. I figured she was too suspicious. And so she probably was a red herring. But I'm like, who else could it be? Because either
Yeah.
our suspects are dead or we're friends with them now.
Right.
So what are we going to do?
Right. The people who started out being, if Pauline is the obvious red herring, well, then your other options have been whittled off the board, and we're friends with them now, and they're
Yeah.
helping us plan this ambush. So who else is it going to be?
Yeah.
He's been lured here by a man he only knows as the Viking. They sit down in the Fancy Pants library to have their meeting, which is completely bugged. Like,
Cameras, everything.
everybody else is like in another room watching like the CCTV version of this
Yeah.
happen and like across the hall,
Yeah,
which I love. It feels like very Scooby-Doo.
it does. Totally. Yeah. And he's come here with the expectation that the Viking can help him finally get the $10 million or however much it was that his VAT fraud 10 years ago back in the day was supposed to get him.
Mhm.
And so, you know, this guy is an expert. So he's like, okay, he's going to help me get it finally. And we learn that the reason Joyce knew that he was the culprit was because that name from the fraud records, Michael Gullis, is actually from his first book. He slipped.
Mhm. Yeah, I can't remember what order it went in. Like if the alias he used was just a name he had in his head, and then he also used it in one of his books,
Oh,
or if
right.
he used it in one of his books and then he was making aliases and was like, I'll just use
I'll
one
use
of my
this.
characters for my books.
Yeah.
Either way, it's stupid.
It's very stupid. I mean, he got away
But-
with it for a long time because he's police, but it's very stupid.
Yeah, it's dumb. Because Joyce, pure little Joyce, was actually reading his shitty crime.
Yeah, because
novel. Oh, I love her so
Yeah.
much.
And
She's so
Ibrahim
great.
figured out that Karen Whitehead is an anagram of another one of his characters. They didn't figure out that last name, Robert something.
Robert Brown.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah.
But they've got two of them that connect him to him. So they're like, this is the guy.
It's the one.
Yeah.
Turns out that while recordings and tapes without consent can't be used in a court of law, they can still be publicized.
Court of public opinion.
Yep. So what Fiona agreed to help with was she let Elizabeth log onto her Instagram account where she has like several million followers,
Mhm.
and they are live streaming the whole interaction between Everton and the Viking, and Everton's whole confession about, look, I like did all this shit. I don't have the money. I need you to help me find this money. I've been looking for it for 10 years. And oof, it goes very viral.
Yeah.
Like
The Viking even comes in at one point, and after convincing him that it's okay that he's there, they push him kind of into talking about Bethany's death, because they're like, we need you to be honest with us before we're ever going to help you.
Right.
And eventually he confesses to murdering her. But this is told from Andrew Everton's perspective, which I thought was interesting. It seems like he's just trying to deduce what they want to hear so that they'll help him.
Mm-hmm.
So it's still not very clear if it's true or not.
Right. I think he ultimately says, like, she died, they died, but it wasn't me. It's not like a confession, like a real one.
Yeah.
But it's definitely fishy. His involvement, one way or another, is definitely, I mean, this man is fucked.
Yeah.
Victor walks in playing an associate.
Yeah.
Helps him talk about Bethany. I love that, like, they're bringing in friends to, like, do the whole scene.
Old
it's
spy
great.
friends that are really good at it. Yeah. Yeah.
Connie sitting in prison on her smartphone watching the live stream. It's so good.
Yeah. Oh, right. And in this moment, we learned from her, she had found Heather's body with a suicide note. And she replaced it with that note that's like, only Connie Johnson can save me. They want to kill me, to indicate that she had been murdered. And she's totally using that to her own advantage. Like,
yeah.
So
to see, this is not a good, like, not a good person. Like, morally, not. Am I on her side?
Yeah.
Yes. Does she still have beef with Bogdan and Ron and like wish them ill will? Yes. I'm simultaneously rooting for them both and for them to somehow find common ground where we don't have to hurt each other.
Totally agree.
Because
I
want her part of the crew.
Yeah, I do too. I want her to be like fully involved, like on the level of Bogdan, you know?
Absolutely. So yeah, she's going to hopefully like comply with police and help get a few years knocked off her prison sentence with this whole shtick. So the live stream's happening. Mike steps in on the live stream and begins reporting for Southeast Tonight on the whole situation.
Obviously, Everton knows that he's fucked now. And I think he runs away.
Yeah. They end it with a tribute to Bethany, which is really touching and very sweet.
Yeah. So from here, we kind of wrap up like all of the little storylines that have been happening, because we've got our culprit. And while that's not like admissible evidence, like obviously now he's going to be looked into. And
in an official capacity.
And they figured it out, so the police will figure it out. And he's going down. That's it for him. But so we've got a scene with Bonna and Dogden. Bogdan and Donna. Oh, there's a lot of names. I'm sorry.
Bonna and Dogden is good. It's actually really good.
Oh my God.
They're so cute together. So she had admired this, like kind of offhandedly admired this statue and this figure in the antique shop. And Bogdan like secretly, sneakily bought it for her and he gives it to her, which is so cute. And they stop by to visit Steven.
This scene.
And absolutely destroy my heart. Like they made it all warm and fuzzy because they're so cute together. And then they stopped by to visit Steven and just ripped it in half. Bogdan suggests that they play a game of chess. And Steven is like, I'm not much of a chess player. That's more of Elizabeth's game. It's not for me. I've never been any good at it. And he asks if he wants to have a cup of tea and watch TV instead. And I am not okay. This fucking wrecked me. It's so...
Dude. And I would say from here on out, crying the rest of the book.
Yeah.
Um,
Richard Osman, how dare you?
how dare you, sir?
Stop it.
Chess is when he's at his peak mentally, and the fact that
Oh my God.
he doesn't even remember that he's good at it and that he likes playing it, and that's literally his relationship with Bogdan, is that they get together and they play chess, and Bogdan is standing in front of him, and
Man, and like Elizabeth like knows that Stephen is like not doing well and that he's really losing it, but she's really been like the only witness to that so far. Like Bogdan is aware of Stephen's issues and like he watches him interact with Elizabeth and like not remember things, but he always remembers chess, and like it's his like tether, his anchor to his memory, and like him losing this is Bogdan is like clearly devastated by this.
yeah, but he does what Elizabeth does, and he protects Stephen in this moment, and he doesn't outwardly express how that has just really affected him.
It's so sad. Oh my God. Yeah. It's very
guys,
upsetting.
I think Stephen's gonna die in the next book.
I don't imagine.
Or he's gonna like mentally die, you know?
I can't decide what would be worse if Stephen passes away in the next book and we actually witness that, or if it happens in between books. Like part of me wants to save myself the like pain of it all, but also that feels so rude to like make that happen in between books. But like I'm like, but that means I have to read it. If it happens in the book, I don't know if I want that to happen.
Oh my God.
I'm just not ready. But like Stephen, I think I would be very surprised if Stephen is still with us after book 4.
Yeah,
And I'm very upset by that.
I know.
It's supported by what happens in this book. Like I feel like Donna and Bogdan getting together, like she is going to help him through that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And Elizabeth has her friends.
Right. I feel like Bogdan wasn't tethered to anybody in the way that he was tethered to Stephen. And I feel like him making a new emotional connection in this book, I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
It's just, it's devastating. It's so sad.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's rough.
Okay.
Bethany's
alive.
which I spent this whole book being so sure that she was alive.
Yeah.
So sure.
Yeah.
And then they just kept confirming
and then,
under no uncertain terms that she was dead.
Jack Mason said she is dead. I can confirm she is dead.
People were acting like they had seen a body and like shit was like there was absolutely no way. And I was just like, it's kind of like in Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, where you spend the whole time being like, I'm pretty sure she's alive, but everyone is so convinced that you're just like, I guess.
Yeah.
But I was still kind of like, I'm going to feel unsatisfied if she actually is dead at the end of this. Like, she's not.
She's not.
We cut to her perspective.
Yeah.
And yeah, she Girl with the Dragon Tattooed and literally like cryptocurrency wired herself the profits from the tax fraud scheme.
Because she figured it out. So she stole that shit.
And she faked her own death and got the fuck out of there because she knew they were on to her. So she knew like she was either going to die or had to like disappear. So she has her own name, like Google alerts set to her own name, and she sees it pop up. And she sees all the recent news stories coming out and kind of reflects on what did happen. And so she did go to Pauline's house the night of her death. Pauline helped her disguise herself as a woman named Alice Cooper, which is funny to me. She'd learned enough about money laundering that she like stole their shit. And I love her. I love that for her.
I also love it for her because she literally had gotten a death threat from Everton. Her name was scratched into a bullet and sent to her.
Right.
Which multifaceted callback to the name, The Bullet That Missed. Lots of missed bullets here. But yeah, so she was like, well, shit, I gotta go. Oh, right. It wasn't even her name. On the bullet.
No, it's not her name. So it's revealed like she, she's talking about, oh, like, yeah, I had received a bullet with a name scratched into it as a death threat. She reveals like right at the end that it wasn't her own name, as you would assume. It was Mike's name, which is so like it's the Elizabeth Joyce dynamic of like
I have to protect
they
him.
targeted the one person that she would, do anything to protect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Andrew Everton never actually, he did kill Jack, but he didn't kill Heather and he didn't actually kill Bethany. So at this point, he hasn't actually done anything that bad. I mean, other than money laundering, but
right, like the tax fraud he's being linked to, but then he went and killed Jack. But
he said he regrets sending her that bullet because that's like ultimately his downfall. Like he didn't get the money, none of it, like because he threatened her and then she outsmarted him and got out of there.
Yep.
So he messed up.
He fucked up.
Yeah.
And he is in prison. His books, because of all this publicity, have taken off.
Yeah, right.
Top of the charts. And so now he's selling his crappy crime novels.
But he has to pay off his $10 million of debt for the laundered money before he can ever see a dime of it. So
it feels pretty good. It feels pretty good. Chris realized that Everton killed Jack with a gun stolen from the dig at Heather's house. So like the evidence that had been collected and then, he had it in his possession and then that was the gun used.
So he will go down for it eventually. And Chris will have another moment,
Yeah, feels good. Feels good.
Yeah. Really quickly, I want to touch on Pauline confesses to Ron the fact that Bethany showed up to her house that night. She has been covering for her for 10 years. Like she helped this woman escape and move to Dubai and never told anyone, including Mike, who's been distraught over the fact that Bethany disappeared for 10 years. And like, even when all of this stuff is being brought up and Ron puts it together that she is Robert Brown because of her makeup and stuff. And
right. There's a makeup brand called Bobbi Brown, which, is one of the aliases. Yeah.
And so she was just 100% involved in such a way that I think it's crazy that Ron doesn't tell everybody and he keeps her secret for her. And I'm just like, girl, we were right not to trust you. And I don't, this doesn't make me like you more.
No, I mean, I approve of her helping Bethany.
Yes.
That's not my issue at all.
Yeah.
It's the keeping it from Mike and not giving him any kind of closure. I don't know. It just doesn't feel, it feels like she did the right thing by helping Bethany. And then it feels like she just let other people suffer for it in multiple ways.
Yeah.
it just feels bad. Like it doesn't feel like a satisfying explanation.
And if she knew this entire time that the Thursday Murder Club was investigating this case, that Bethany wasn't dead, why was she like inserting herself? And like clearly she wanted to see where they were at in the investigation. And she knows the answer.
Right.
It's weird.
And it's like, is she trying to like insert herself to keep Bethany protected, to like make sure that they don't catch on that Bethany is alive, and like maybe she was gonna at some point try and divert their case. Like I don't know. I just wasn't like endeared to her character enough to like love her enough despite these things.
Right.
And it just didn't work for me. So I'll be interested to see how she plays in the next book. Cause I'm sure she's going to be around cause she's still like with Ron at the end of this book. So I'm sure we'll see her at least, whether she plays into the story in a bigger way or not. I'm not sure.
I hope she gets some redemption if she's going to be sticking around.
He's really good about that.
Yeah.
I think I have trust in Osmond to make me fully accept her in the next book, but I'm not there yet.
Yeah.
It didn't feel like enough to me.
Yeah.
The book ends on a really somber note. It's the perfect like balance of like sweet and somber because Elizabeth can tell that Bogdan is keeping something from her. She knows Stephen's in decline, but I feel like she also doesn't. Like the news that that chess is no longer something that keeps him grounded would be devastating to her.
Yeah.
And he knows that. So yeah, she knows he's keeping something from her. And
It's really
she
hard.
and Joyce have gone to visit Victor at his fancy pants London apartment,
Yeah.
which this building really exists.
Really?
There's these two towers, like apartment towers in London that are connected by like a sky pool.
Whoa.
It is really cool. And then like 3 days after finishing this book, Kendall and I were watching something and they showed this building. And I was
way.
like, oh, I did the Leonardo DiCaprio like pointed at the screen and I was like, oh my God.
That's
'Cause
crazy.
I didn't really think about it being a real place, but it definitely is.
Wow. Okay, cool.
Joyce is like enamored, like kid like about this pool.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
so they're relaxing at Victor's apartment and Elizabeth is thinking about Stephen and it's cold out, but Joyce decides to swim anyway because she's like, you don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Take the
She
take
says
the moments.
She's like, we'll have opportunity to come back in the summer. Like, you don't need to do it now. And Joyce is like, we might not. Who's to say that we'll be
Yeah, we
around
don't
in
know
the
that.
summer? I'm going to do it now because I can now.
Hmm.
Just fucking rip out my heart. Why don't you?
It's I can't do it.
And Victor's like talking about how he wants to move to Cooper's Chase because he has fallen in love with this group of friends and wants to be a part of it. And then and then the book literally ends. Joyce is swimming, Elizabeth is watching her, and it ends with the line, "You keep swimming, my beautiful friend. You keep your head above water as long as you can."
I'm sorry, but excuse you, Richard Osman. Why do these books just freaking get me so bad? Yeah, I'm so attached to these people.
Yeah.
I'm legitimately like worried about reading the next book. Like
Yeah.
I have had it back here on my shelf for so long and I know it's going to take me like a day to read it. Like I know I'm going to read it so fast and I'm legitimately scared to do it.
Because what's going to happen to these characters?
I'm legitimately scared for them. More like with each passing book that nothing happens, that none of them like experience a significant loss, I get more worried about it.
Mhm.
Your mom has read it and she said that the fourth book is probably her favorite one.
Wow. Okay.
Which is big hype.
yeah.
But I'm like, I might need to text her and be like, could you just warn me? how worried do I need to be? Like, please warn me.
You know, if it's her favorite, that probably means that emotionally it's very more emotion than mystery, you know? So that actually kind of scares me more.
Oh, gosh.
Ew.
Guys, yeah, I mean, even if you're listening to this podcast, so you're spoiled on the books, like, please, if you haven't, please go read them.
There's so many
They are
small little moments. Like, I mean, obviously we cannot talk about everything because it would take forever. But
Mhm.
the little moments that happen in every single scene are so beautiful and worth it. And like no other book I've ever read.
Right. It's just filled with like warmth and love. They're so good.
Yeah.
I really can't
Yeah.
like express how much I love them. The dialogue is so like sharp and tight and like
Mhm.
everything means something and like it's just they're just really well done and they make me cry. It feels like watching the Great British Baking Show. It's like
does.
the same experience. I'm just like I'm very happy, but I'm very sad.
Yeah.
It's all wholesome.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man. Well,
We made
you
it
guys
through.
actually get to see us cry now,
Yeah.
which is like a level of vulnerability that we have not had to do yet.
I know. Oh.
I can't wait for the show. I have really high hopes
Yes.
for the TV show.
It's
or
so
the
well
movie. I can't recall which
casted.
one's
I
gonna
think
be.
if they stick to the tone of the book, like I'm okay if they make minor changes, but the tone needs to be there. And as long as that's
I'm
there,
okay if they tell entirely new stories, honestly.
Yeah.
Like I'm okay if the murder mystery is not the same. Honestly, I might prefer it because it's new. It's a new mystery for me.
Yeah.
You know? Like I've read the book, I know the answers.
Yeah.
So even if they decided to change like the original story, it's about the characters and the
Yes.
tone.
Yes.
I'm
don't
here
add
for the
unnecessary
mystery.
drama. Don't change them as people or their friendships, or just wholesome vibes, guys.
It's a character driven series, and
Yeah.
the adaptation needs to feel that way too.
And if it does, oh my gosh, so exciting.
It's gonna be like a new
Yeah.
comfort thing for me, I bet.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. But that wraps up the third Thursday Murder Club book
Yes.
for us. We are going to be covering Death on the Nile,
The movie.
the Kenneth Branagh movie. Next, neither one of us has read that book.
Yeah.
We were talking about it, and like there's so many Agatha Christie novels and adaptations. I think
Mhm.
we're going to just do a mixture of both. Like we've covered
We've
And
covered
Then There Were None,
books.
the book,
Yeah.
and we did Crooked House, which is
The
a movie
movie.
adaptation. So
Mhm.
we're just kind of, we'll do a little bit of both. I would love to cover all of the books and all of the adaptations.
God.
But just like that is
This would just be an Agatha
years
Christie
worth of
podcast.
content.
Yeah.
It's like Nancy Drew. I mean, there's so many of them.
Yeah.
So yeah, we are going to be covering the movie next,
Yep.
and we will see you then.
Yeah. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Many thanks to Kindle for editing our pod and for our lovely theme songs. You can find his work at lounginglappin.com. Thank you to Cozy Snail Designs for our cozy cover art. You can support us on Patreon at patreon.com/senior detectives. We are also on Twitter at SNR_detectives, TikTok at SNR Detectives Pod, and on Instagram at Senior Detectives Pod. See you there.